The sound of the spoon tapping the crystal glass cut through the air. All eyes turned toward Richard. Camille felt her heart beating slowly, very slowly, as her husband smiled with that smirk she knew so well. Family. I want to divorce Camille. And then the applause began. The Mendoza family home in the Chapelita neighborhood smelled of cinnamon, clove, and guajillo chili since 6 in the morning. Camille had been standing for 5 hours in that enormous kitchen with Talavera tiles and an antique stove that heated up like a bakery oven. She had helped her mother-in-law, Mrs. Hortensia, prepare 50 pork tamales, 3 gigantic pots of red pozole, and a stuffed turkey that weighed almost 7 kilos. Her hands hurt, her feet too. But she smiled. Outside, in the patio decorated with colored Christmas lights and red and green papel picado, paper banners, Richard's cousins were playing soccer with his nephews. The aunts gossiped next to the star-shaped piñata. The grandparents rested in white plastic chairs, drinking hot punch, with tejocote, a type of fruit, and guava. Everything was noise, laughter, Christmas carols playing from a portable speaker. Everything seemed perfect. But Camille knew the truth. For 6 months, every hug from her husband had been a lie. Every kiss, theater, every I love you, whispered before sleeping, pure acting. And on that Christmas Eve night, December 24th, amidst 30 people, Richard was going to publicly shatter her. Or so he thought. Camille looked at the rooster-shaped wall clock. It was 9 o'clock in the evening. Dinner was ready. The decorated clay plates already occupied the long table in the dining room. Red napkins carefully folded. Glasses filled with Jamaica hibiscus water. The smell of the pozole made everyone approach hungry. "Dinner time, family!" shouted Mrs. Hortensia, wiping her hands on her embroidered apron. The Mendoza family rushed in. Uncles, cousins, in-laws, nephews, 28 people who squeezed around the table and the extra chairs brought from the living room. Richard sat at the head, as always. Camille was to his right, as always. He smiled at her. She returned the smile. No one noticed that it was a different smile. Calm, cold, calculated. Mr. Arthur, Richard's father, raised his glass of El Calvario cider. "Let's toast to this united family, to health, to another year together." "Wait, Dad," Richard interrupted. Everyone looked at him. He took his spoon and tapped it against his glass. The sharp clinking silenced the table. Even the children stopped moving. Camille closed her eyes for a second. She took a deep breath. She felt the weight of her brown leather bag hanging from the back of her chair. Inside were 8 folders, 8 truths, 8 bombs. "Family," Richard began, standing up. "I know tonight is special. I know we are here to celebrate. But there is something I need to say. Something I've kept for a long time." Mrs. Hortensia frowned. The aunts stopped chewing. The older cousins looked at each other. Richard put a hand on Camille's shoulder. She didn't move. "For these last few years, I've tried. I really tried, but I can't anymore. This relationship no longer works." A murmur ran through the table. "That's why," Richard continued, squeezing her shoulder tightly, "I want to divorce Camille." The silence lasted exactly 3 seconds. And then, Aunt Lupita started applauding. Then Cousin Javier. Then Mrs. Hortensia. One by one, almost the entire Mendoza family applauded. Some even smiled. Grandma Remedios nodded in approval. Mr. Arthur patted his son on the back. "It's about time, son," the father said. "That woman had you controlled. I always knew she wasn't good for you. added one of the aunts. Camille looked at them all. Their faces, their smiles, their applause, and something inside her, something that had been broken for 6 months, finally hardened like steel. She let them applaud. She let them celebrate. She let Richard enjoy his moment of glory, because she knew that in 5 minutes, that same family would be shattered. Richard pulled some folded papers from his white shirt pocket. He placed them on the table. I already have the documents. I just need you to sign, Camille, and we can end this peacefully. She looked at the papers. She looked up at him, then at the family that was still smiling. And finally, she spoke. Her voice came out calm, firm, without a trace of tears. Of course, Richard. I'm going to sign. He blinked, surprised at how easy it had been. But first, Camille slowly stood up, taking her bag. I think your family deserves to know the truth. The dining room fell silent. Camille opened the bag and pulled out the 8 manila cardboard folders. Each one had a name written on it with a black marker. Mrs. Hortensia, Mr. Arthur, Aunt Lupita, Cousin Javier, Grandma Remedios. What is that? Richard asked. And for the first time that night, his voice trembled. Camille began distributing the folders around the table, one by one, placing them in front of each family member. Open them, she said simply. Mrs. Hortensia was the first to open her folder. Her wrinkled hands trembled when she saw the first photograph. It was Richard kissing a light brown-haired woman at the entrance of a hotel in Puerto Vallarta. The second photo showed them hugging on the Malecon boardwalk, with the sunset in the background. The third was worse. Entering a room together, hands entwined. The fourth photo made Mme. Hortensia let out a choked gasp. Richard and that woman in a hotel bed, asleep, half naked. The white sheet barely covered them. The morning light streamed through the window. Someone had taken that photo from the slightly open door. My God, the lady murmured. Mr. Arthur opened his folder. He found screenshots of WhatsApp conversations, messages between Richard and someone saved as SS. Did you tell her yet? Richard, not yet. I'll wait until Christmas. S. What about the house? Richard, it's mine. I paid for it. She's not entitled to anything. S. Perfect, honey. We'll be together soon. Further down, another message. Richard, my family already knows I want a divorce. I told them Camille is controlling and toxic. C. Well done. That way they'll support you when you announce it. Mr. Arthur looked up at his son. His always serious face now showed something worse than anger. Disappointment. Aunt Lupita opened her folder and found receipts. Fiesta Americana Hotel, Puerto Vallarta. 2 nights, executive suite. Date: May. Quinta Real Hotel, Guadalajara. 1 night, special room. Date: July. Santo Coyote Restaurant, dinner for 2. Date: August. Platino jewelry, white gold necklace with diamonds. Date: September. $3,400 pesos. All payments made with the shared credit card. The card Camille and Richard used for household expenses. Cousin Javier reviewed photos printed on photographic paper. Richard and the same woman in Tlaquepaque, buying handicrafts. In Chapala, walking by the lake. In Mazamitla, in a rustic wooden cabin. Each photo had the date and time in the bottom right corner. Grandma Remedios opened her folder with slow hands. Inside, there was a handwritten letter. The handwriting was a woman's. It said, Richard, thank you for these 8 months. I know it's been hard for you to keep pretending with her, But soon we will be free. Soon we can be together without hiding. I love you. Your Sophia. The grandmother closed her eyes and began to pray softly. Santa Maria, Mother of God. The dining room was plunged into a heavy silence, broken only by the sound of turning pages, of photos moving, of held breaths. Richard had turned completely pale. He looked at the open folders on the table as if they were venomous snakes. Camille, I can explain. No, she interrupted him, still standing, with the last folder in her hands. There was nothing left to explain. She opened that final folder. It was the thickest. She placed it in the center of the table where everyone could see it. Inside, there was more proof. Bank statements showing large cash withdrawals, invoices for expensive gifts, reservations for romantic restaurants. Everything dated, everything documented, everything real. And on the last page, a different photo. It was of the apartment Camille and Richard shared in the Americana neighborhood. The photo showed their bedroom, their marital bed, with the floral comforter Camille had bought at the San Juan de Dios market. And in that bed were Richard and the brown-haired woman, embracing, asleep, in the middle of the afternoon. The photo was taken from the bedroom door. The person who had taken that photo had been Camille. It was 6 months ago, Camille said, her voice so calm it was scary. It was Tuesday, June 14th. I left work early because I had a headache. I arrived at the apartment at 3 in the afternoon. I opened the door carefully because I thought Richard was sleeping. Everyone listened to her in absolute silence. Even the children in the patio had stopped shouting. I walked down the hallway. I heard noises in our bedroom. I opened the door. Camille paused. Her eyes were dry, cold. She had already cried all she had to cry months ago. And there was my husband, with Sophia, my best friend since high school, the maid of honor at our wedding, the one I considered my sister. Mrs. Hortensia brought a trembling hand to her mouth. They woke up when I entered. Richard didn't even try to deny it. He just looked at me and said, Camille, we can talk about this. And Sophia covered herself with my sheet and told me, I'm sorry, but I love him. I really love him. Camille's voice still didn't break. It was as if she were telling someone else's story. I asked them how long they had been together. Richard told me 8 months. 8 months of lies. 8 months of me preparing his food, washing his clothes, sleeping next to him, while he planned his life with another woman. My daughter. Mrs. Hortensia tried to speak, but Camille raised a hand. That day, I didn't shout. I didn't cry in front of them. I didn't even scold them. I just took my phone, took this photo, and left. I walked to a coffee shop on Chapultepec Avenue. I sat down. I ordered an Americano coffee. And I thought. Camille looked directly at Richard. I thought about how I had spent 5 years of my life with you. I thought about all the times your family made me feel less. All the times they criticized me for working, for not having children yet, for not cooking like your mom, and I realized something. She leaned forward, placing her hands on the table. I realized that if I made a scene that day, you were going to twist the story. You were going to make me look like the crazy one, the hysterical one, the jealous one. Your family was going to blame me. They always do. Some aunts looked down, ashamed. So I decided to be smarter. I hired the best divorce lawyer in Guadalajara, attorney Valeria Montes. Do you know her? Mr. Arthur nodded slowly. Everyone in Guadalajara knew Valeria Montes. She had won impossible cases. She had destroyed lying husbands in court. She taught me something. Vengeance is not shouting. Vengeance is having proof. And for 6 months, I gathered every piece of evidence you see in these folders. Camille took out her phone and placed it on the table. I also have recordings of when Richard told his friend Ernesto how he planned to take the house from me, of when Sophia said I was stupid for not realizing, of when you, she looked at the family, talked about me behind my back at family gatherings. The silence was so dense it could be cut with a knife. Richard tried to get up, but his father stopped him with a furious look. So yes, Richard, Camille continued, taking the fake papers he had placed on the table. She tore them in half, then into quarters, and let them fall like confetti. I'm going to sign the divorce, but not these papers that you brought. From her bag, she pulled out a large, thick manila envelope. She opened it and took out a 15-page legal document with official seals and the signature of attorney Valeria Montes. I'm going to sign these papers, the real ones. She placed them on the table with a dry thud that made the glasses jump. And in these papers, Richard, is everything that is legally mine. Camille pushed the first page of the document toward the center of the table so everyone could see it. The apartment in the Americana neighborhood, she began, pointing to the first point with her index finger. Richard swallowed. According to Mexican law, any asset acquired during the marriage is community property. You bought that apartment 4 years ago, Richard, in the middle of our marriage. So, half is mine. 1,400,000 pesos. Mrs. Hortensia's eyes widened. Mr. Arthur clenched his jaw. But I paid for it with my salary, Richard protested weakly. And I paid for the electricity, the gas, the water, the groceries, the gasoline, the internet, Camille replied without getting upset. While you saved up for your romantic getaways to Puerto Vallarta. She moved to the second page. The car, a Nissan Versa 2022, Oxford Gray, Jalisco State license plates. We bought it together 2 years ago, half and half. Current value, 240,000 pesos. 120,000 belongs to me. Richard tried to interrupt, but Camille continued relentlessly. The Chevrolet Colorado truck that's parked outside, the one your dad gave you 3 years ago, but you put in my name to pay less for insurance. Do you remember that, Richard, mister? Arthur looked at his son in disbelief. That truck is legally in my name, so technically it's mine. But since I'm fair, I'll give you the option. Either you give me its cash value, or I keep it. Aunt Lupita let out a low whistle. Camille moved to the third page. This one was longer, with a detailed list. Shared savings account at Banorte. Current balance, 183,500 pesos, half for each. Investment account at Afore. Your name, but fed during our marriage. A percentage belongs to me. Apartment furniture. From the living room we bought at Muebles Troncoso to the bed you stained with your lover. That last phrase made several people wince. And now comes the important part, Camille said, reaching page 7 of the document. Her voice hardened. Moral damages. Infidelity proven with photographic, testimonial, and documentary evidence. Planned public humiliation. Family manipulation. Attempted dispossession of assets. She looked up at Richard. Attorney Valeria calculated that this is worth 200,000 pesos at a minimum. Richard finally exploded. This is robbery, he shouted, abruptly standing up. His chair fell backward with a dry thud. I'm not going to give you one more peso than you are entitled to. Then I'll see you in court, Camille replied with terrifying calm. And there I will present all the evidence, including the ones that are not in these folders. She took out her phone and began to slide photos on the screen. I have more photos, more videos. Audio recordings where they plan how to take everything from me. Messages where Sophia says I'm stupid for not noticing. Invoices for a 3,400 peso necklace that I never saw because you gave it to her. Richard paled even more. I have proof that you used our shared card to pay for romantic dinners with her. That is marital fraud, Richard. The attorney explained to me that I could even sue you criminally for that. Son, Mr. Arthur stood up slowly. His voice sounded tired, disappointed. Is all this true? Richard looked at his father, then at his mother, then at the uncles, cousins, the grandmother. Everyone looked at him with a mixture of shame, disgust, and sadness. Dad, she doesn't understand. Sophia and I fell in love. These things happen. It wasn't planned. 8 months wasn't planned? Mrs. Hortensia interrupted. Her voice trembled with contained rage. 8 months of lying to your wife, of bringing that woman to your bed, of spending both your money on hotels. Mom. Don't call me Mom. The lady stood up, her eyes full of tears. I raised you better than this, Richard. I taught you to respect women. Your father and I have been married for 10 years, and he has never, ever been unfaithful like this. Mr. Arthur put a hand on his wife's shoulder, but his eyes were also wet. And the worst part, Mrs. Hortensia continued, pointing at Camille, is that I applauded. I applauded when you said you wanted a divorce because I believed you, because I thought she was the problem. She turned to Camille. My child, forgive me, truly, forgive me for not seeing you, for not asking you, for believing my son's lies. Camille nodded slightly, but her expression remained cold. She wasn't going to forgive so easily. Not yet. Aunt Lupita stood up and walked around the table until she was in front of Richard, and then she slapped him. The sound echoed in the dining room like a gunshot. You are a disgrace, she told him, a disgrace to this family. Cousin Javier also stood up. Brother, I defended you. When you said Camille was difficult, I believed you. I told my wife that Camille was controlling, and it was all a lie. One by one, the Mendoza family members got up. Some approached Camille to apologize. Others simply looked at Richard with contempt. The children, confused, had stopped playing in the patio and watched from the doorway. Grandma Remedios, who had remained silent all that time, finally spoke. Richard Mendoza Ortega, she said in a firm voice, despite her 84 years. Your grandfather, may he rest in peace, was a man of honor. He worked his whole life to give us a respectable name. And you stained it. She pulled a rosary of black beads from her pocket. I'm going to pray for your soul, because right now, grandson, you are more lost than Judas in the desert. Richard tried to approach his grandmother, but she raised a hand, stopping him. No, don't come near me until you've fixed this mess. Camille watched everything from her place. She didn't smile. She didn't cry. She didn't shout victory. She just watched as the family who had applauded her humiliation 15 minutes ago now turned against Richard. Silent justice. Mr. Arthur took the legal documents from the table and reviewed them page by page. He was a civil engineer. He knew how to read contracts. After 5 minutes, he looked up. This is legal, he said. Everything is in order. Sign, Richard. Dad, you can't. Sign, roared Mr. Arthur. And it was the first time in years that anyone had seen him lose his composure. Sign those papers and give Camille what belongs to her, or I swear by your grandfather's memory that I will take you to court myself. Richard looked at the papers, then at Camille. His eyes showed rage, humiliation, defeat. I need time to gather that money, he mumbled. You have 30 days, Camille replied, pulling a pen from her bag. Attorney Valeria already established the terms. If you don't comply, we will seize your accounts and properties. She extended the pen to him. Richard took it with a trembling hand. The entire dining room watched in silence as he signed. 1 page, 2 pages, 5 pages, 15 pages. When he finished, Camille took the documents, reviewed them carefully, and put them in her bag. "Thank you," she said simply. She turned to the family. "Mrs. Hortensia, Mr. Arthur, thank you for these 5 years. Despite everything, you welcomed me into your home." She walked toward the dining room door. Her low heels echoed on the tiled floor. Before leaving, she stopped and looked back one last time. "Oh, Richard, one more thing." He looked up, his eyes red. "Sophia called 3 days ago. She said she was pregnant, that it was yours." The silence that followed was absolute. "I thought you should know. Merry Christmas." And she left. Camille walked down the street in Niños Héroes, a street name, under the light of the Christmas streetlights. The houses in the Chapalita neighborhood shone with colored lights. Christmas carols played from open windows. Families were having dinner together, happy, without drama. She took out her phone and dialed a number saved as Valeria. She answered on the second ring. "Did it happen?" the attorney asked. "She signed everything?" Camille replied, her voice finally cracking a little. "She signed. I knew it. Men like him always sign when you confront them in front of their family. Are you okay?" Camille stopped at the corner. A young couple passed her, laughing, carrying gifts wrapped in shiny paper. "I don't know. I think so. I don't think so. I don't know how I feel." "It's normal," Valeria said in a calm voice. "You just won the most difficult battle of your life. Your body hasn't processed it yet. Where are you?" "Walking. I needed air." "Do you want me to pick you up? My husband and I are having dinner nearby on Avenida Mexico." "No, thank you. I'm going to walk for a while." "It's okay, but call me if you need me anytime." Camille hung up and kept walking. She had no fixed destination. She just needed to move, think, breathe. Meanwhile, in the Mendoza house, chaos was just beginning. Richard was still sitting in his place, looking at the empty space where Camille had been standing. Her final words echoed in his head like church bells. "Sophia called 3 days ago. She said she was pregnant." His mother was the first to break the silence. "Is it true?" Mrs. Hortensia asked. "Is that woman expecting your child?" Richard didn't answer. He just put his hands on his face. "Answer!" his mother shouted, something completely unusual for her. Mrs. Hortensia never shouted, but everything had changed that night. "I don't know," Richard murmured. "Sophia told me a few days ago, but I don't know if it's true. I don't know if it's mine." "My God," sighed Mr. Arthur, letting himself fall into his chair. "This is worse than I thought." Aunt Lupita poured herself a full glass of tequila from the bottle that was on the table for dinner. She drank it in one go. "In my 52 years," she said, wiping her mouth with the back of her hand, "I have never seen anything like this. Never." Cousin Javier approached Richard. "Where is Sophia now?" "In her apartment, in the Del Valle neighborhood." "And what are you going to do?" Richard looked up. His eyes were glassy, lost. "I don't know, Javier. I don't know anything anymore." "Well, you're going to have to decide quickly," Mr. Arthur intervened, "because if that woman is pregnant, you're going to be a father, and fathers don't run away from their responsibilities." "But Dad, I don't even want to be with her now." "Oh, you don't?" Mrs. Hortensia's voice cut the air like a knife. 10 minutes ago you were willing to destroy your marriage for her. 10 minutes ago you loved her so much that you betrayed your wife. And now you don't want her?" Richard had no answer. Grandma Remedios got up slowly, leaning on her wooden cane. "I'm going to sleep," she announced. "This has been the worst Christmas Eve of my life, and I've lived 84. She walked toward the door, but before leaving, she turned to her grandson. "Your grandfather would be ashamed of you, and I am too." and she left, leaving a heavy silence behind. One by one, the uncles, cousins, and nephews began to say goodbye. No one wanted to stay. The dinner was still on the table, untouched. The pozole was getting cold. The tamales remained wrapped in their leaves. The turkey hadn't even been carved. In 15 minutes, the house was empty, except for Richard, Mrs. Hortensia, and Mr. Arthur. The mother began clearing the dishes in silence. Tears streamed down her wrinkled cheeks as she stacked the clay plates that no one had used. "Let me help you," Mr. Arthur said, standing up. "No," she replied. "I need to do something with my hands, or I'm going to go crazy." Richard was still sitting, motionless. "Are you going to stay there all night?" his father asked. "I don't know what to do, Dad." "To start, you're going to get the money you promised Camille. You're going to sell whatever is necessary. You're going to take out loans, but you're going to comply. It's a lot of money. It's what you owe her, and it's less than you deserve to lose." Mr. Arthur approached the window that overlooked the patio. The Christmas lights were still on, flickering in colors that now seemed out of place. "Do you know what hurts me the most?" he said without turning around. "It's not that you were unfaithful. Men make mistakes. I don't approve of it, but it happens." He paused. "What hurts me is that you planned to humiliate Camille publicly, that you manipulated your family to reject her, that you tried to steal what belonged to her. That wasn't a mistake, son. That was malice." Richard lowered his head. "I'm sorry. Don't tell me. Don't even tell Camille. It's too late for apologies. Sorry doesn't fix anything. Sorry doesn't turn back time. Sorry doesn't erase the pain you caused." That night, Richard did not sleep in his old room at the family home. He walked out after midnight and drove aimlessly through Guadalajara. He drove past the Americana neighborhood apartment he had shared with Camille. The lights were off. She hadn't returned. He ended up parked in front of Sophia's building in the Del Valle neighborhood. He looked up at the third floor, where a light shone in the window. He took out his phone. 23 missed calls from Sophia. 17 messages. Sophia: "Did you tell her yet?" Sophia: "Richard, answer me." Sophia: "How did it go?" Sophia: "Honey, you're scaring me." Sophia: "Did she sign?" Sophia: "Richard." He started typing a reply. He deleted it. He wrote another. He deleted that, too. Finally, he wrote, "We need to talk." The reply came in 5 seconds. "Come up." Richard turned off the engine. He stayed sitting in the darkness of the car for 10 full minutes. Then he got out and entered the building. Meanwhile, Camille had arrived at a small hotel on Chapultepec Avenue. Cervantes Hotel. Old but clean. She asked for a simple room. She sat on the single bed with her bag in her lap. She took out the signed documents. She looked at them. She put them back. And then, finally, after 6 months of holding everything in, Camille cried. She cried for the 5 lost years, for the betrayal of her best friend, for the planned humiliation, for the applause of a family that had never truly accepted her. She cried until she had no more tears left. Then she washed her face in the small bathroom, looked at herself in the steamed-up mirror, and said to herself, "It's over. You won. Now rebuild." In Sophia's apartment, the conversation was not going well. "What do you mean you're not sure?" she shouted. "You just divorced her for me." "I didn't divorce her," Richard replied tiredly. "She divorced me, and she took half of everything. But you said the house was yours, that she wasn't entitled to anything. I was wrong. Her attorney proved that everything was community property." Sophia paced around the living room of the apartment, a room decorated with modern furniture that Richard had helped pay for. "And the pregnancy?" he asked. "Is it true?" She stopped, looked down. "Yes, I'm 5 weeks pregnant. The doctor confirmed it yesterday." And is it mine? The slap came so fast that Richard didn't have time to dodge it. How dare you? Sophia shouted. How dare you ask me that? Sophia, I need to be sure. I've only been with you for 8 months. Who else do you think I would be with? Richard rubbed his cheek where she had hit him. It was the second slap of the night. I'm sorry. It's just that all of this is too much. My family hates me. I lost half my assets. And now this. This? Sophia repeated. You call our son this? I didn't mean that. Then what did you mean, Richard? He sank onto the beige sofa. I don't know, Sophia. I don't know anything anymore. She sat down next to him. She took his hand. Look, I know tonight was difficult, but it's over. You're free now. Now we can be together for real. We can start a family. Richard looked at her. He saw her pretty face, her brown hair, her hopeful eyes, and for the first time in 8 months, he didn't feel love. He felt exhaustion. 3 days after Christmas Eve, Richard received the first call from the bank. Mr. Mendoza, your shared account at Banorte has been frozen by court order. We need you to come to the branch to resolve the matter. He hung up without answering. The second call came an hour later. It was his boss at the construction company where he worked as a site supervisor. Richard, I need to talk to you. There are rumors circulating. Your ex-father-in-law, works with one of our most important clients. He says you are unreliable. I need you to come to the office. He didn't finish listening to that call either. The third was from his mother. Son, your father and I have decided something. You are not going to come to the house until you sort out this mess. Your grandmother doesn't want to see you either. I'm sorry, but that's how things are. He listened to that one completely. Then he sat on Sophia's sofa, staring at the white wall, seeing nothing. Sophia came out of the bedroom wrapped in a pink robe. Who called? My mother. They don't want to see me. She sighed and sat down next to him. They'll forgive you. They just need time. You don't know my grandmother. When she decides something, it's forever. Sophia placed a hand on her still flat belly. Well, then we focus on us, on our family. Richard didn't answer. Meanwhile, at attorney Valeria Montes's office on Avenida Americas, Camille was signing more documents. These are the papers for the property transfer, Valeria explained, pointing with her Mont Blanc pen. Richard has until January 31st to deposit your share. If he doesn't, we proceed with the seizure. And if he doesn't have the money? Camille asked. Then we sell the entire apartment. The law protects you, Camille. Don't worry. Valeria closed the folder and leaned back in her leather chair. Now let's talk about you. Where are you living? In a hotel for now. The Cervantes. You can't stay there forever. Do you have family in Guadalajara? Camille shook her head. My mom lives in Morelia. My dad died 6 years ago. I have a sister in Monterrey, but we're not very close. Friends? Camille let out a bitter laugh. My best friend was Sophia. You know how that ended. The rest were all friends of the Mendoza family. When Richard started speaking badly about me, they stopped calling. Valeria nodded knowingly. It's common. Betrayed wives often lose not only their husband, but their entire social circle. She took a card from her desk. Look, I have a friend who rents furnished apartments. Good prices, good areas. I'm going to connect you with her. In the meantime, this is the number of a psychologist. Her name is Daniela Ruiz. She's excellent. I don't need therapy, Camille said quickly. Camille. Valeria leaned forward. I've handled 200 divorces in my career, and I'm going to tell you something. The women who move on fastest are the ones who accept help. You did the hardest thing, which was confronting him. Now comes the healing part. Camille took the card without saying anything. A week later, on December 28th, Richard finally gathered the courage to go to the bank. The executive who served him, a woman in her 40s with rectangular glasses, checked her screen with a serious expression. "Mr. Mendoza, your shared account has a balance of 183,500 pesos. According to the court order, 90,750 must be transferred to Ms. Camille Herrera's account. And my credit cards? Also frozen until the debt division is resolved. How am I going to pay my expenses?" The executive looked at him over her glasses. "You should have thought of that before, Mr. Mendoza." He left the bank feeling the walls closing in on him. He had 3,000 pesos in cash. His salary wouldn't arrive until January 5th, and he needed to pay Sophia's apartment rent, get food, and gather 1,400,000 pesos in a month. Impossible. He drove to the construction site where he worked, an office building under construction on Patria Avenue. His colleagues greeted him awkwardly. Some didn't even look at him. The chief engineer, Mr. Rodrigo Zamora, called him into his temporary office. "Sit down, Richard." "Mr. Rodrigo, I know rumors have been circulating." "They're not rumors." The engineer opened a folder. "Your ex-father-in-law, Mr. Herrera, called the owner of the construction company personally. He told him everything. The owner has been his friend for 20 years. Richard felt the floor disappear beneath his feet. "Are you going to fire me?" "No, but I'm going to be honest with you. Your reputation is damaged. Clients talk, secretaries gossip, and in this industry, reputation is everything." Mr. Rodrigo closed the folder. "I'm going to give you some old-fashioned advice. Fix your personal mess. Fast. Because if this continues to affect the work, I won't be able to protect you." That night, Richard told Sophia everything. "I need money," he said, his head in his hands. "A lot of money, and I don't know where to get it." "How much do you need?" "More than 1,000,000 pesos." Sophia paled. "Richard, I don't have that much. I work in a boutique. My salary barely covers this apartment." "I know. I'm not asking you." "Then?" "I'm going to have to sell my car and ask for a loan and maybe pawn some things." Sophia bit her lip. "And what if you don't raise it all?" "Then Camille keeps the entire apartment. She sells it, and I lose everything." They were silent. The only sound was the traffic on the avenue outside. "Do you regret it?" Sophia asked quietly. "Regret what?" "Everything. Us leaving Camille." Richard looked at her. He wanted to say no. He wanted to say she was worth it. He wanted to say he loved her. But the words didn't come out, and Sophia understood the silence. On December 30th, Camille moved to a small apartment in the Americana neighborhood. A single bedroom, built-in kitchen, full bathroom, 9th floor with a view of the city. Valeria's friend gave her a good price, 6,000 pesos a month. While unpacking the few things she had taken from the shared apartment, her phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Camille?" It was a woman's voice, trembling. "It's Sophia." Camille felt her stomach churn. She almost hung up, but something stopped her. "What do you want?" "I need to talk to you. Please, just 10 minutes. We have nothing to talk about." "Camille, please, it's important." There was something in the desperation of her voice that made Camille agree. "Okay, Café Libertad on Avenida Mexico, at 5 in the afternoon. And if you're late, I'm leaving." "I'll be there." "Thank you." Camille arrived at the cafe almost 15 minutes early. She chose a table in the corner with her back to the window, facing the entrance. She ordered an Americano coffee and waited. Sophia arrived exactly at 5. She looked thinner, dark circles under her eyes, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She sat down without asking permission. "Thank you for coming. Camille didn't answer. She just looked at her with cold eyes. I don't know where to start, Sophia said, wringing her hands on the table. Start at the beginning. Why did you sleep with my husband? Sophia closed her eyes. It was in April. I had broken up with my boyfriend. I was sad. Richard invited me for some drinks. We went to the La Madeleine bar. We drank too much. One thing led to another. I don't want excuses. I want to know why. Sophia opened her eyes. They were full of tears. Because I always wanted him. Since before you two got married, when you introduced me to him in college, I felt something. But he chose you. Camille squeezed her coffee cup. So you waited. You waited 5 years to destroy my marriage. It wasn't like that. Then how was it, Sophia? Enlighten me. I tried to stay away. I really did. But he kept looking for me. He said he wasn't happy with you anymore. That he felt trapped. That I understood him better. And you believed him? Yes, I believed him. Because I wanted to believe him. Camille let out a dry laugh. Do you know what the saddest thing is? I considered you my sister. I told you all my secrets. I introduced you to my family. You were the maid of honor at my wedding. And all that time, you wanted what was mine. Sophia was sobbing now, tears running freely. I'm sorry. I really am sorry. I don't care about your apology, Camille said, her voice hard as stone. Why did you want to see me? Sophia took a deep breath. I'm pregnant, with Richard's baby. And he doesn't want this baby. He doesn't want to be with me. He regrets everything. Camille felt a strange mixture of satisfaction and sadness. And what do you want me to do with that information? Nothing. I just needed someone to know. I needed to tell you. Why me? Because you were my best friend. Because despite everything I did, I still trust you more than anyone. Camille stood up. She left a 50 peso bill on the table. Sophia, what happens between you and Richard is no longer my problem. I will move on with my life. You will move on with yours. And I hope that baby has better luck than us. She walked toward the exit. Camille! She stopped, but didn't turn around. Forgive me, Sophia pleaded. Someday, please, forgive me. Camille turned her head slightly. Maybe, in another life. And she walked out of the cafe without looking back. On January 5th, Richard's Christmas bonus arrived. 23,000 pesos, barely enough to cover 2 weeks of basic expenses. That same afternoon, he put his Nissan Versa up for sale. He posted it on Marketplace for 190,000 pesos. 20,000 less than the real value. He needed to sell quickly. Calls began to arrive. Most were haggles. I'll give you 140, 160, and that's my final offer. Do you accept 150 and I'll take it today? Richard rejected them all. He needed at least 180,000. On the third day, a serious buyer appeared. A man in his 60s, owner of a hardware store in Tonalá. 175,000. Cash. But I want a mechanic to check it first. Richard accepted. The mechanic found minor problems. Worn brake pads, expired oil, a tire with little tread. The buyer lowered his offer. 165,000. Final offer. Richard gritted his teeth and accepted. 3 days later, on January 9th, he handed over the car. He received the money in fiat and 1,000 peso bills. He counted them twice. 165,000 exactly. Now he was missing more than 1,200,000 pesos, and only 20 days. That night, Richard arrived at Sophia's apartment without a car. He had taken the Route 600 bus, a 2-hour journey that normally took him 30 minutes. Sophia was waiting for him, with dinner prepared. Green enchiladas, red rice, refried beans. The smell filled the small apartment. Did you sell the car? She asked. Yes, but it wasn't enough. How much did you get? 165,000. Sophia dropped the plate she was serving. And now? I'm going to take out a loan and sell other things. What other things? Richard looked around. He didn't have many possessions. His clothes, some watches, a 3-year-old laptop, work tools. I don't know yet. They ate in silence. The enchiladas were good, but Richard barely took a bite. I went to the doctor today, Sophia said suddenly. And? Everything is fine. It's already 8 weeks. She gave me prenatal vitamins. Richard nodded without looking. Aren't you going to ask anything else? What do you want me to ask, Sophia? I don't know. If it's a boy or a girl. When will it be born? Something. It's too early to know that. But you could at least pretend you care. Richard dropped his fork onto the plate with a dry clang. Sophia, I'm 20 days away from losing everything. My job is at risk. My family isn't talking to me. I have to raise more than 1 million pesos. Forgive me if I can't get excited about the pregnancy right now. She got up from the table with teary eyes. I didn't ask for this either, Richard. I didn't ask to get pregnant either. But here we are. She locked herself in the bedroom and didn't come out all night. Meanwhile, Camille had started a new job, an advertising agency on Chapultepec Avenue called Creativa MX. Her boss, a 38-year-old woman named Patricia Villarreal, had hired her as an account coordinator. I saw your resume, Patricia told her in the interview. 5 years in an events agency. Good references. Why did you change? Camille had prepared the answer. Personal changes. I needed a new start. Patricia nodded knowingly. She didn't ask any more questions. The atmosphere at Creativa MX was completely different. Young, dynamic, without family drama. Her new colleagues welcomed her warmly. No one knew her story. No one judged her. For the first time in months, Camille felt light. On January 14th, her 32nd birthday, Camille treated herself to something special. She cut her long hair to her shoulders, a drastic change. The stylist at the salon on Avenida Mexico gave her caramel highlights. When she looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. You look beautiful, the stylist said, adjusting the strands with his fingers. Like new. And that's how she felt. New. That night, her new co-workers invited her to dinner. They went to the Y Latina restaurant on Chapultepec Avenue. They ordered shrimp tacos, ceviche, micheladas, beer cocktail, prepared with clamato and chamoy, a savory sauce. Let's toast to Camille, said Mariana, the graphic designer. To new beginnings. To new beginnings, everyone repeated. Camille smiled, a real, unforced smile, and she realized that it was the first time in a long time that she had felt genuinely happy. Richard, on the other hand, spent that same day at a different bank, applying for a personal loan. The executive, a young man in his 25s with a too shiny tie, reviewed his credit history. Your score is good, Mr. Mendoza. 750 points. We could approve you for up to 400,000 pesos. I need more. The most we can offer without mortgage collateral is 500,000, but the monthly payments would be high, 20,000 pesos a month for 36 months. Richard did the math mentally. With his 35,000 pesos monthly salary, paying 20,000 for the loan would leave him with 15,000 for everything else. Impossible. And with mortgage collateral, do you have any property in your name? The apartment he lived in. But it's in the process of community property division. The executive shook his head. We cannot use property in legal dispute. Richard left the bank feeling defeated. That afternoon he called his father. It was the first time they had spoken since Christmas Eve. Dad? Silence on the other end. Dad, I need help. I don't have money to lend you, Richard. I'm not asking for money. I need to talk to someone." Mr. Arthur sighed deeply. "Your mother and I have talked a lot these days, and we came to a conclusion. We raised a man we thought we knew, but the man who humiliated his wife on Christmas Eve, that is not the son we raised. Dad, I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix anything. Sorry doesn't turn back time. Sorry doesn't erase the pain you caused. Then what do you want me to do? I want you to face the consequences. I want you to pay what you owe. I want you to be a man and not ask for help again to fix the messes you created yourself, son. And when you've sorted this out, when you've given Camille what belongs to her, when you've shown that you still have some honor, then maybe, just maybe, your mother and I will consider talking to you again." The call ended. Richard stared at his phone. A message from Sophia appeared on the screen. "Sophia, I need money for prenatal vitamins. They are $1,200. He looked at his bank balance. $4,300 until the next payday. He transferred the $1,200 without replying to the message. On January 20th, 11 days before the deadline, Richard sold his laptop for $800, his work tools for $3,000, his Casio watch for $500, an old television for $1,200 total. $5,500. Ridiculous compared to what he needed. That night, desperate, he called his cousin Javier. "Cousin?" "Richard, what a surprise." "Javier, I need a huge favor. If it's money, I can't help you. Just listen to me." "No, Richard, you listen to me. The whole family is angry with you. Grandma cries every night. Your mom stopped going to Mass because she's ashamed of people asking about you. Your dad is quiet, sad. You destroyed the peace of this family." "I know. That's why I'm trying to fix it." "Well, fix it yourself. As my father always said, he who sows the wind reaps the whirlwind." And he hung up. Richard collapsed onto the sofa in Sophia's apartment. Outside, the city of Guadalajara continued its nightlife rhythm. Cars passing on the avenue, people laughing in the restaurants. Normal life. But his was crumbling. On January 25th, 6 days before the final deadline, Richard received a call from attorney Valeria Montes. "Mr. Mendoza, I am Camille Herrera's attorney. I remind you that the deadline expires on January 31st. Do you have the money? I'm working on it." "Mr. Mendoza, working on it is not a valid answer. Yes or no?" Silence. "That's what I thought. I suggest you start looking for real options. Selling the entire property, for example. My client already has an interested buyer who is offering 200,000 pesos. If you agree to sell, each of you would receive 140,000. You would be debt-free and have 50,000 extra. But that apartment is mine. It was yours. Now it belongs to both of you. And if you don't comply, it will be entirely hers. The law is clear. And where am I going to live if I sell? That is no longer my problem, Mr. Mendoza. You have until the 31st. Good morning." She hung up. Richard looked at the walls of Sophia's apartment. Barely 30 square meters. One small bedroom. Tiny built-in kitchen. Bathroom that barely fit one person. And the three of them would live there. He, Sophia, and a baby. If Sophia still wanted him by then. On January 28th, 3 days before the deadline, Richard finally accepted reality. He didn't have the money. He wasn't going to get it. He had to sell the apartment. He called attorney Valeria Montes. "I accept. I'll sell the property." "Wise decision, Mr. Mendoza. The buyer already has the financing approved. We can sign on the 30th. That fast? The buyer is a serious businessman, pays cash. He already reviewed the property. All that's left is for you and Ms. Herrera to sign before a notary." "Okay, One more thing. You will need to completely vacate the apartment before the signing. The buyer wants immediate delivery. Richard felt a lump in his throat. Can I take my things? Everything that is legally yours, yes, but I suggest you coordinate with my client. She also has the right to pick up what belongs to her. That afternoon, Richard arrived at the Americana neighborhood apartment for the first time in over a month. He used his key. The door opened with a creak. The place smelled stale. The curtains were closed. A layer of dust covered the furniture. The living room where they had watched movies together. The dining room where they had dinner on Sundays. The bedroom where... He didn't want to enter the bedroom. He began to pack his things. Clothes, shoes, personal documents, some books. He put everything in cardboard boxes he had gotten at an OXXO, convenience store. While putting away a shirt, he found a photo in the closet drawer. It was from their wedding day. Camille looked beautiful in her simple white dress. He smiled in a gray suit. Behind them, the entire Mendoza family. Happier times. He put the photo in his wallet. When he finished, he looked at the apartment empty of his belongings. All that remained was the furniture, the paintings, Camille's things, and the memories. He closed the door and left the key on the building's mailbox. The next day, January 29th, Camille also went to the apartment. Attorney Valeria accompanied her. Take your time, the lawyer told her. Take everything you want. What you leave will be sold with the apartment or donated. Camille entered slowly. The place felt different, empty not only of things, but of life. She went straight to the bedroom. The sheets were still on the bed, the same ones she had seen stained with betrayal 7 months ago. She furiously ripped them off. She put them in a trash bag. Then she opened the closet. Richard's clothes were gone. Only hers remained. Dresses, blouses, pants she hadn't worn for months. Clothes of a Camille who no longer existed. She decided to take only the essentials. She would donate the rest. In the living room, she found photo albums, weddings, birthdays, trips to Mazatlan and Guanajuato. 5 years documented on photographic paper. She quickly flipped through them. Then she closed them and left them on the table. She didn't need those memories. In the kitchen, she saw the set of pots her mother-in-law had given her. The molcayet, mortar, of volcanic stone they had bought in Tlaquepaque. The ceramic mugs with their initials. She left everything. She only took one thing. An aloe vera plant in a green pot that her mother had given her when she got married. This plant will protect you, her mother had told her. As long as it is green and strong, you will be too. The plant had survived 5 years. The leaves were still thick and green. Camille carried it carefully. Ready? Valeria asked from the doorway. Yes, there's nothing else I want from here. They left the apartment. Camille did not look back. January 30th arrived cloudy and cold, a rare morning for Guadalajara. At 10 in the morning, at Public Notary number 87 on Hidalgo Avenue, everyone involved met. Camille arrived on time, accompanied by Valeria. She wore a black pantsuit with a white blouse, her short hair pulled back, subtle makeup. She looked professional, serene, strong. Richard arrived 5 minutes late. Worn denim pants, flannel shirt, old sneakers, deep dark circles under his eyes, several days' growth of beard. He looked destroyed. The buyer was a man in his 50s, owner of a chain of hardware stores. He arrived with his wife, an elegant woman with gray hair. The notary, a serious man with thick glasses, reviewed all the documents. Very well. We will proceed with the signing. Mr. Mendoza, Ms. Herrera, this is the purchase-sale contract. The agreed price is 2,900,000 pesos. Each of you will receive 1,450,000 pesos, minus notary expenses and the corresponding tax. He placed the documents on the mahogany desk. Any objection before signing? Camille shook her head. Richard didn't say anything either. Good, Ms. Herrera. Sign here. Camille took the pen and signed with clear, determined handwriting. 4 pages, her full name on each. Camille Herrera Ramos, Mr. Mendoza. Richard took the pen with a trembling hand. He looked at the sheets. He looked at Camille. She did not look back. He signed. Richard Mendoza Ortega. The ink smudged slightly on the last letter. Perfect. The buyers now. The couple signed efficiently. They had done this many times before. Done. The bank transfer will be effective today before 3 in the afternoon. The apartment will be vacated and delivered tomorrow on the 31st. Correct? Everyone nodded. Then, I declare this legal act concluded. Congratulations to the new owners. The couple shook hands with the notary. Then, with Camille and Valeria, they avoided Richard. When they left the notary's office, Richard tried to approach Camille. Camille, wait. She stopped, but didn't turn around. What do you want? I just wanted to tell you, I'm sorry. I really am sorry. Camille finally looked at him. Her brown eyes, once full of love, now only showed indifference. I know, Richard, but your apology no longer matters to me. Is there any way we can… What? Be friends? Keep in contact? Camille let out a dry laugh. No, there is no way. You and I ended that afternoon on Christmas Eve. This was just paperwork. Camille. Goodbye, Richard. She got into Valeria's car, and they left. Richard stood on the sidewalk of Hidalgo Avenue. Traffic flowed quickly. Buses, cars, motorcycles. Guadalajara continued its chaotic rhythm. But he felt motionless, lost. He took out his phone. He had 3 messages from Sophia. Sophia. Did you sign yet? Sophia. Richard. Answer. Sophia. We need to talk when you arrive. He didn't answer. He walked to a diner near the San Juan de Dios market. He ordered a beef broth with vegetables. He wasn't hungry, but he needed to do something with his hands. The broth arrived steaming, with large chunks of carrot, potato, squash, and corn on the cob. Bolillo bread on the side. He ate mechanically, without savoring. Is everything okay, young man? Asked the diner owner, an older woman with a floral apron. Yes, ma'am, thank you. She looked at him with knowing eyes, that motherly look that identifies when someone is suffering. Cheer up, kid. Everything passes, the bad and the good. Everything passes. Richard nodded without conviction. When he finished, he paid his 60 pesos and walked aimlessly. He passed the cathedral. He went inside. He sat on a back bench. The church was almost empty, just a lady praying the rosary and a man lighting candles. Richard looked at the altar. It had been years since he had prayed. His grandmother Remedios always told him, God listens, mijo. He always listens. He closed his eyes. God, if you are listening to me, I don't know what to say. I messed up terribly, and now I don't know how to fix anything. His voice broke. My family hates me. My wife, my ex-wife, despises me. The woman I'm with doesn't really want me. I'm going to be a father, and I don't know if I want to be. His voice broke. I lost my house. I almost lost my job. And the worst thing is that it's all my fault. Tears began to fall. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do anymore. He sat there, crying in silence, for 20 minutes. When he left the cathedral, the sun had broken through the clouds. Guadalajara shone under the January light. He took the bus back to Sophia's apartment. When he entered, she was sitting on the sofa. She had a suitcase next to her. "What is that?" Richard asked. "I'm leaving," Sophia said. Her voice sounded tired. "I'm going to Monterey with my sister." "What? Why?" "Because this isn't working, Richard. You don't want me, you don't want the baby, you're only here because you have nowhere else to go." "Sophia, that's not true." "Yes, it is, and it's okay. I also made a mistake. I thought loving you would be enough. I thought that if Camille disappeared, you would be happy with me. But I was wrong." She stood up and took the suitcase. "My sister got me a job at her clothing store. I'm going to have the baby there. I don't need anything from you. No money, no last name, nothing." "But Sophia..." "Goodbye, Richard. I hope you find what you're looking for, because it clearly wasn't me." She left the apartment and closed the door softly. Richard was left alone in the silence. He looked around. The tiny apartment, the old furniture, the miniature kitchen, the bathroom that barely fit one person. And he realized something terrible. He had lost everything, absolutely everything. His wife, his house, his family, his lover, his future child, his dignity, all for an affair that no longer even existed. He sank onto the sofa where Sophia had been sitting seconds before, and for the first time in his adult life, Richard Mendoza cried like a child. On January 31st at 2 in the afternoon, Camille's phone vibrated with a bank notification. Deposit received, 1,385,000 pesos, her share of the apartment sale, minus notary fees and taxes. Camille looked at the screen for a full minute. Then she took a deep breath and closed her eyes. It was over. It was truly over. She was sitting in her new apartment in the Americana neighborhood, the one she rented for 6,000 pesos a month. The aloe vera plant rested on the window, its thick green leaves shining in the afternoon sun. Valeria had called her 30 minutes earlier. "The money was transferred. Everything is legally closed. You no longer have any ties to Richard Mendoza. Thank you, counselor, for everything." "No, Camille, thank you. In 30 years of my career, I have seen few women with your composure. You knew when to fight and how to do it. The intelligent revenge exists." After hanging up, Camille had remained on the sofa processing. Now, with the bank notification on the screen, she finally felt it. Freedom. That night, her co-workers invited her to celebrate. They went to the Alcalde restaurant on Avenida Mexico. They ordered charcoal grilled octopus, shrimp aguachile, a seafood dish, ribeye tacos, sparkling white wine from Valle de Guadalupe. "To Camille," toasted Patricia, her boss, "for being the strongest woman I know." "To Camille," everyone repeated. Mariana, the designer, leaned toward her. "Can I ask you something personal?" "Of course." "How did you do it? How did you last 6 months without saying anything? I would have gone crazy." Camille took a sip of wine before answering. "Because I knew that a scream lasts a minute, but proof lasts forever. Anger fades, but a legal document doesn't." "You're my hero," said Andrea, the community manager. "Seriously, when my ex cheated on me, I just cried and forgave him. 3 times. "I'm not a hero," Camille replied. "I just learned that revenge is not shouting. It's being smarter." Patricia raised her glass again. "Amen to that." That meanwhile, on the other side of the city, Richard was in Sophia's empty apartment. She had taken everything: furniture, clothes, even the curtains. She had only left the old refrigerator and the stove. The rent contract was in her name. It expired in March. The owner had called him that morning. "If you want to stay, I need you to sign a new contract and a 2-month deposit." Richard didn't have money for that. After receiving his 1,385,000 pesos, he had paid accumulated debts, credit cards, personal loans, money he owed a friend. In the end, he was left with 120,000 pesos, enough to rent something modest, not enough to really start over. That night, he slept on the floor of the empty apartment with only a blanket he had bought at the Federalismo Avenue market. 30 pesos. The February cold in Guadalajara cut through the thin walls. His neighbor in the next room played norteña music until 2 in the morning. The other one smoked marijuana in the hallway. The lady in the back room had 5 cats that meowed all night. Richard lay down on the thin mattress on the concrete floor and looked at the moisture-stained ceiling. How had he gotten to this? A year ago he had a wife, his own apartment, a family that respected him, a stable future. Now he had nothing. February arrived with longer, sunnier days. Camille used part of her money intelligently. First, she set aside 200,000 pesos in a savings account. Emergencies. She wouldn't touch it for anything. Then, she invested 300,000 in a small investment fund that her cousin, who worked in finance, recommended. Don't expect to become a millionaire, her cousin warned her over the phone from Monterrey. But in 2 years, you'll see good returns. With the rest, Camille allowed herself some treats. New clothes for work, a quality orthopedic mattress, a desk to work from home, an online course in digital marketing. She also set aside 50,000 pesos to visit her mom in Morelia. It had been 2 years since the last time. On February 14th, Valentine's Day, Camille bought herself a bouquet of white roses. She put them in a vase next to the aloe vera plant. For me, she told herself in the mirror, for surviving. That same day, Richard spent his first night in a rented room in the Oblatos neighborhood. 3,500 pesos a month. He shared a bathroom with 3 other tenants. The tin walls let all the noises through. Richard lay on the thin mattress on the concrete floor and looked at the moisture-stained ceiling. How had he gotten to this? In March, Camille received an unexpected call. It was Mrs. Hortensia. "Camille, it's Hortensia." Silence. "I know I have no right to call you. I know my family hurt you a lot. But I needed to tell you something. Richard he's very bad. He's penniless. He lives in a horrible room. He's lost a lot of weight. Your dad spoke to the owner of the construction company, and they fired him." "Mrs. Hortensia, with all due respect, that is no longer my problem. I know. I just wanted you to know that we also rejected him. Mr. Arthur doesn't talk to him. Grandma Remedios erased his name from the will. I cry every night thinking about how we raised that man." Her voice broke. "You didn't deserve any of what he did to you. You were a good daughter-in-law, a good wife, and we failed you." Camille felt a pang of something. It wasn't pity, maybe compassion. "Thank you for telling me that, Mrs. Hortensia. Really, is there any way you can forgive us?" "Maybe, with time. But for now, I need to move on, without looking back." "I understand, my child. I understand. Take care of yourself." "You too." They hung up. Camille didn't feel satisfied knowing Richard was doing badly, nor did she feel sadness. She just felt nothing, and that was exactly what she needed to feel. In April, 3 months after the final signing, Camille received a proposal. Patricia called her into her office. "Camille, I have something to offer you. We are opening a branch of the agency in Puerto Vallarta. I need someone to manage it. I thought of you." "Me? But I've only been here for 3 months. And in 3 months, you showed more professionalism than people who have been here for years. You are organized, intelligent, and you know how to handle crises. That's gold in this business." "I don't know what to say." "Say yes. The salary is better. 45,000 a month, apartment included, and Puerto Vallarta is a complete new start. Camille thought of the beach, the sea, waking up to the sound of the waves instead of the traffic of Guadalajara. When do I start? Patricia smiled. June 1st. That night, Camille called her mom. Mom, I'm going to Puerto Vallarta. On vacation? No, to live. They offered me to manage an advertising agency there. Her mother let out a cry of joy. My child, how proud! After all you've been through, look where you are now. I know, Mom. I still can't believe it. Your dad would be so proud. He always said, Camille has fire in her soul. Nothing will break her. Camille felt hot tears on her cheeks. I miss him, Mom. Me too, my child. Me too. But he's watching you, and he's smiling. On May 30th, Camille organized her move to Puerto Vallarta. She didn't have many things. She had packed everything in boxes in half a day. Her co-workers in Guadalajara threw her a farewell party. They ate at the Santo Coyote restaurant. They drank tamarind margaritas. They sang Paquita, La del Barrio songs at the top of their lungs. To the women who don't give up, shouted Mariana, raising her margarita. To the women who are smarter than their exes, added Andrea. To Camille, said Patricia, for showing us that you can win without screaming. They all toasted. The next day, Camille drove her Chevrolet Colorado truck, the one that technically belonged to her after the divorce, along Highway 215, heading for the coast. 4 hours on the road with the windows open, Gloria Trevi music playing on the stereo, and the hot May wind blowing through her hair. When she saw the sea for the first time, she stopped at the viewpoint. The Pacific stretched out infinitely, bright turquoise under the midday sun, waves gently breaking on the sand. Camille got out of the truck and approached the railing. I did it, Dad, she whispered to the wind. I did it. And in that moment, standing in front of the ocean, Camille Herrera finally felt complete. Not because she had a new job or money in the bank or an apartment on the beach, but because she had recovered something Richard could never take from her, her dignity. Meanwhile, in Guadalajara, Richard Mendoza was still living in the rented room in the Oblatos neighborhood. He had found work at a construction site as a general helper, 8,000 pesos a month. He carried cement, mixed concrete, cleaned debris. His hands, which before only signed documents and handled blueprints, were now full of calluses and cuts. His back hurt every night, but he paid his rent. He ate. He survived. One June afternoon, while resting at the construction site, his phone vibrated. Unknown number from Monterrey. Hello? Richard? It was Sophia. Sophia, what happened? She was born 2 days ago. It's a girl. Richard felt something strange in his chest. He didn't know if it was joy, sadness, or fear. Is she okay? Yes. 3 kilos, 400 grams, healthy and perfect. What's her name? Emma. Emma Sophia. It's a nice name. Awkward silence. I'm not calling you to ask for anything, Sophia said. I just thought you should know. Thank you. Richard, I hope you're doing well, truly. You too, Sophia. They hung up. Richard looked at his phone. He had a daughter. Somewhere in Monterrey, there was a little girl with his last name that he would never meet. Another consequence. Another lost piece of life. He got up and went back to work. The foreman shouted at him to hurry up. They had to finish pouring concrete before nightfall. Richard picked up the shovel and kept working. 6 months later, in December, Camille was on the terrace of her apartment in Puerto Vallarta. Direct view of the sea. The sun was setting in shades of orange and pink. She held a glass of white wine. Beside her, the aloe vera plant, now bigger and stronger than ever. Her phone rang. It was Valeria Montes. "Camille, how are you?" "Very well, counselor. Here in Puerto Vallarta. And you?" "Excellent. I called you because... Do you remember your case? Of course. Why?" "I'm using it as an example in my conferences. I wrote an article on legal strategy and difficult divorces. Your story is perfect." "Seriously?" "Yes, of course I changed the names. But the strategy, the patience, the way you gathered evidence, it's a perfect case study." Camille smiled. "I'm glad it helps other women. That's the idea, to let them know they can win, that they don't have to stay silent, that intelligent revenge exists." After hanging up, Camille remained looking at the sunset. She thought about that Christmas Eve night, the applause, the planned humiliation, the hatred she had felt. And she thought about everything that came after, the signed documents, the money recovered, the new life built, not with shouts, not with violence, not with desperation, but with strategy, with patience, with intelligence. She raised her glass to the ocean. "To the women who don't shout," she said aloud. "To the women who plan. To the women who win." And she drank. The Pacific wind blew softly, moving her short hair. The waves broke on the beach, and Camille Herrera, divorced, free, strong, smiled, because in the end, the best revenge had not been to destroy Richard. It had been to rebuild herself. A year after the divorce, on any given night, Camille wrote in her personal diary, "To the women who are going through betrayals, humiliations, infidelities, don't be alone. Don't keep silent out of fear. But don't act in desperation either. Vengeance is not shouting. It is not hitting. It is not destroying yourself inside. Vengeance is being smarter. It is gathering every piece of evidence. It is seeking legal help. It is staying calm while they lose theirs. It is signing papers that leave them with nothing while you rebuild everything. I lost 5 years of my life. I lost a family. I lost a friendship. I lost trust. But I gained something much more valuable. I recovered myself. And in the end, that is worth more than any apartment, any car, any man. To all the Camilles in the world, you are stronger than you think. You just need to remember it." She closed the diary. Outside, Puerto Vallarta shone with night lights, and Camille Herrera, 33 years old, agency director, free woman, went for a walk on the Malecon. The future was hers, and no one would ever take it away again. We want to get to know you. Write your city and country in the comments. What did you think of this story? What part impacted you the most? If this story kept you hooked until the end, you will love the next one. Until the next story.